And the webinar has started.
Yes, the webinar has started, our first mastermind of the new year, and it's a Mind Types After Dark.
There we go. And we like Mind Taps After Dark. Makes it a little fun, a little interesting. So how was that Christmas season up there in New York? You get some snow, get some white Christmas. What was that
Yep.
like?
We got snow before and after. We've already had two substantial snowfalls. I'm on Long Island, which is not even, real snow country. Teresa, my wife, of course, is from Syracuse, so she's always rooting for tons of snow. But yeah, we've been having a snowy, eventful winter. But now that it's warmer, though, I noticed just now, just before this call, that I'm having some heating issues and hot water issues. So I have to call my oil burner guy and all of that. So
Oh
we
no. Well, that's
yes,
you have the real oil thing, right?
yeah, no, exactly. We're in the Northeast here, and so we burn heating oil, and we do it the old-fashioned way.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
so welcome everybody. Happy New Year. And Elisa, good to see you. Kurt, always our long distance entry. David, nice to see you, buddy. Dr. Art, Linda, hey everybody. Happy New Year, Dr. Art says to everyone. So thank you for that. Excellent. So originally, I know we're going to cover some mind types things, but I also do want to jump into the fact that it's the new year, and yesterday we had a session where we interviewed our favorite SEO guru, Mr. Andrew Dale, and
mhm.
he helped set the tone for that webinar call about some key things to know starting the new year in 2026. And I think we owe it to our membership here to really cover some of that. And I know that you had wanted to cover some other AI stuff as well. And so, if it's okay with you, we could mix that in and then maybe hit the mind types, unless you want to do the mind types first.
No, no, that sounds great. I mean, there's so many. Uh, for those who don't know, at the end of last year, we really had a significant core update from Google in its algorithms, including AI and what that looks like and where we're going as we're moving forward. And it's really important to understand these things because the changes are so significant that you can put yourself at a significant advantage if you know what's going on and how to take advantage of this. So I think it's a really important thing to start with that and truly invite everybody to weigh in, ask questions, etc. This is not simple stuff by any means. So it's quite complex, and we'll see what kind of a job we can do between us to explain all this.
Yes, exactly. But let's warm up with this answer for Dr. Art. He's asking a messaging question originally, so right up your alley. So he says for B2B, which is better? Verbiage around you deserve or your customers deserve or use both? That's an interesting question, Ridgely. We've actually never thought of it that way before when there's a B2B layer there. And we never even actually thought of using a construct such as your customers deserve.
Yeah, no, it comes in though on a fairly regular basis. So to me, both is great. There's no reason not to use both. Um, if if even though it's a B2B situation, if the customer is B2B only, then both is great. If it's your business is dealing with businesses, but they deal with customers directly, then you deserve is going to be better than your customers deserve. Because there's always that thing of what is our most important and most favorite subject? Ourselves. So if you speak to anybody directly about themselves, that's their favorite that's it. It's always what's in it for me, right? That's what the whole thing is. What's in it for me when they're examining it. So if it's a business that is B2B, great. If you're talking to the business, you B2B, but they're talking to the customer, then you deserve is going to be more effective than your customers deserve.
Right. Excellent. Excellent question. Excellent answer. Some latecomers just want to recognize having joined us. Bill, welcome. Bridget, it's great to see you. Bruce, hey there. Um, the mysterious D, hello there. Uh, Father Shade, good to see you. Gianna and everybody, great to see you. Bill says thank you. Great to see you both too. Excellent. Happy New Year, everybody. Okay, so welcome to the latecomers. We just started off with the B2B question, and we were talking about some AI foundational type of things. We will be covering some mind types things exactly too. But originally, should we just go ahead and just start confusing everybody by explaining entities,
I
or is
think
that
so,
going to give
man. I
everybody a
think so.
headache too fast, too
Well,
soon?
yeah, let's give everybody a really quick headache and then hopefully we can relieve some of this headache because it is complicated. And one of just before we jump in, one of the thought processes that Hubert and I have had for a really long time is that if it's hard and it's complicated, we love it. Why? Because other people won't take the time and won't figure it out and won't do the work, and it gives us an edge. So I still abide by that very firmly. Like, hey, man, if it's tough, it's a pair. If it's a pain, if it's difficult, if it's all that, great. Because that means it's going to be harder for other people to adopt. It's going to give us an edge in the marketplace. And I'm always looking for an edge. So, that said, let's jump into what is becoming important and literally making keywords when it comes to search engine optimization almost obsolete, as if they don't
Exactly.
even matter. So that's a big starting point. Keywords are dead is kind of the concept. It's not entirely true, but it's largely true. Hubert, back to you.
Yes. So this is a challenging thought, and the sooner we all accept it, the better. And I'll help you accept it by explaining why Google has shifted to this. And what we're talking about that's no longer going to work in 2026 is the idea of optimizing for certain keywords. Okay. So in the world of AI, and Ridgely is always using this as an example to our prospective clients, people are used to doing voice queries into an AI assistant or typing in questions online. But gone are the days of saying a literal search keyword, such as cosmetic dentist, Stony Brook, New York, as opposed to who's the best cosmetic dentist in Stony Brook, New York, right? Now, what's happening behind the scenes and why Google has demoted the idea of literally ranking you by the keywords that you use on the website. They've gone to using, and we'll explain this, the idea of entities that should appear for the subjects that you supposedly are an expert in. And the reason, and originally this is the answer to having everybody kind of accept what's going on. The reason has to do with, again, Google's ability to compete in the AI space. It turns out that under the hood, the way the AIs and the LLMs answer questions about certain topics is that they do all this research and understand all the concepts and ideas. In fact, they're all entities behind the answers that they generate. And because Google does that and has been doing it, and now they're just leaving keywords behind and they're identifying all the entities around your space. They're putting it in an internal database at Google called the Knowledge Graph. And they keep a knowledge graph about you, your business, your website, and all of that, and your expertise. All the entities that are in the knowledge graph, Google relies on to actually power the AI overviews. So for you to do well in 2026 for Google search results, it will also make you do well for the AI overview results, and it will also help you do well in the other AI platforms. So now the concept is if entities are so important, let's understand as entrepreneurs what entities are and how do you go about um, making sure that you cover all the entities that Google and the AI engines expect to see. Because at the end of the day, what happens is they, meaning AI and Google, they look to see how somebody's web page covers the entities. I'm just going to look rigidly at our pan
No,
at
no,
our
let me jump in here for a second
yes,
because
okay.
this is one of those cases, if you've been around a long time, you know this goes on a lot, where I have to interpret what Hubert is saying.
Yes.
Okay, because this
Thank you.
is complicated. Because I assure you, everybody on this call is now super confused. What the heck are you guys talking about? Let's back up. An entity, when it comes to Google, is a concept or a real world thing, like a person, a brand, an idea, an event, something that is beyond just a keyword that Google's knowledge graph recognizes and understands, says, it gives them more relevant information to answer a query with. It deals with the intent of the searcher. What is the intent or the meaning behind what somebody is looking for? So it's a distinct item, not a generic term. It's well defined. It stands out from other things. So for example, when it comes to people, it could be an individual, a famous person, Shakira. When it comes to places, it's Paris or New York. When it comes to brands, it's Apple or Kodak. When it comes to concepts, it's like climate change, research. When it comes to events, it's like the Oscars. All of those things are entities, and they all go into forming what Hubert was calling earlier the knowledge graph. So, in terms of like to put it in context, let's say their brand is Apple, but Apple is also a fruit. If it's not clear to the search engine and AI which of those two you are, the fruit or the brand, then you're going to get penalized or you're not going to get used. There is a need to create content that clearly defines either your brand or your topic or your product or your service so that Google can say when somebody is specifically looking for that thing that you have and you offer, this is the best person for me to rank. This is the best person for me to offer as an answer in an AI engine. So I know that's not exactly super clear, but at least it gives you a step in the right direction.
Excellent. Thank you. So I was just looking at our list of guests on this call, and I'm just picking one at random. And Bridget, I'm picking you because first off, I haven't talked to you in a minute. And, I'm curious as to how you're doing, and what you're doing in the new year to promote your business. I've been on your mailing list, and I see that you've, sent out a couple of new emails. So I know that marketing is on your mind. So for people that don't know, Bridget Callahan, one of our members, is an expert in helping optimize business presentations, slideshows, PowerPoint, and so forth to help them convert better and all of that. That there's a whole science to it. Bridget is an expert at it, and we use Bridget ourselves. Okay, so let me share my screen, Ridgely, and I'm going to use Bridget as a case study. And Bridget, if you feel like coming on, feel free, no pressure. But let me just share my screen and talk to you through this case, talk everybody through this case study using Bridget and what entities are. Okay. And so basically, I went and I did this. I went to Perplexity and I said, what are Google entities for the topic of PowerPoint presentation optimization? Okay. And so it went and did some research and it came up with like the entities. Entities are things, right? And so if you're talking about slideshow optimization, um, Bridget says, sure, no problem. So originally, would you bring Bridget on?
Already did.
Oh, great. Okay, awesome. And Bridget, if you want to unmute yourself or come on camera, feel free to jump on in at any time. Hey, Bridget, good to see your face.
Hello.
Happy
Hi,
New
good to
Year.
see you guys.
Happy New Year.
Happy New
Okay,
Year.
so this is your unexpected bonus start of the year, right? Right, talk. Okay, so the entities around Bridget's niche would be things like presentations, slides, sections, creative work, and all of that. Okay, so it's covering in a vacuum what some entities
Wait, you got to
are.
slow down, man. You got to go slower. So back it up a little bit. Back it up. You're going way too fast. You're losing people already. But scroll
Okay,
down a little bit.
I'm
It's
I'm
let's go through this as a real example. Like, in other words, it's the slides, it's the sections, it's the title slide, it's the agenda, all of those are entities, every one of them. Then in the creator author entity, you've got right there a person, an organization, the properties, the job title. In the organization, what type of organization is it? In the education, what concept, what themes are covered, what events, what people, what places. All of these are entities. So when Google is out looking, they want to know that you are covering your online presence is covering all of this stuff super clearly. so that
Mm.
people, so that they know you are the person that clearly presents this particular service. And therefore, when a query comes in on that service, you rank higher and show up faster in AI engines than anybody else. You with me still?
Mhm.
Okay, good. Okay, Hubie.
This entity approach helps Google understand your presentation's context beyond just keywords, right? And so now, then I said, what are the Google entities on this page at createslidesthatconvert.com? That was just one of your sites that come to mind, Bridget. So it goes and it runs an analysis and it says, hey, these are the primary entities on this website. Okay. And so for this discussion, entities that exist right now, we're going to see what are some gaps that should be there, right? And so, it identifies entities such as Bridget Callahan and her role as a presentation design and expert and her expertise. So all of the entities now in our case study are filled in specifically to Bridget's business, right? So we had it in a vacuum. Now we're having it laid onto a specific website. Okay, so missing and weak entities. This page has significant SEO opportunities. It's not implementing structured data markup for, and then it's mentioning some schema type stuff that needs to happen. Okay, and so on and so forth. And then it's got some SEO recommendations. Now, these SEO recommendations, we're doing these for entity optimizations. This is what it takes to do well in 2026. What originally started off the show with by saying that we're not going to be necessarily optimizing keywords, but entities. That's what all of this is about. Okay. And so, in future episodes, we'll dive into the specifics of how to set your schema and everything else. Okay. But I said, what are some entities that Bridget Callahan should present on her website to rank better? Okay. So it goes and talks more about the entities that should be strengthened. And these would relate to Bridget presenting more content about these specific entities. Okay. So maybe there's a more of a story behind, how Bridget came to this expertise and so forth. The branding of create slides that convert and all of this stuff. So this is the new punch list of topics, Bridget, that you need to cover in 2026. Okay. And some of this you
Clearly.
already do, some of this you may not do, but this is how we're kind of sparking you to relook at your stuff for the new year.
Yeah, so the website I posted in the chat is my current website that we have renewed, that was the new design.
Ah,
Um,
awesome. So should we go ahead and run that
this
one
one
as
I haven't touched in 3 years, so
well? Okay, good. Okay, so another, let's type it in here. Another website for Bridget is her new one at, oops,
no, not that one.
that one we got. Babylon Arts. Did I spell that correctly?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm on a
Please,
laptop, so it's hard to read.
okay, please uh, review the entities on that site and suggest any gaps that should be filled. Okay. Now it's going to go and look. Babylon Arts is already signaling a strong design agency and presentation design focus, but there are important entity gaps that if filled would make it much easier for Google to connect this site to Bridget and her services. Okay, so entities currently implied, and here are the entities, major entity gaps to fill. We need to strengthen the Bridget Callahan entity, linkage between brands. So you need to not. So this is something that we've been advising many of our clients that it's time to kind of clean up if you have multiple websites or multiple presences or multiple niche focuses to kind of this is the year to kind of combine everything and maybe deprecate some of the older ones or stuff. It's actually in the age of entities originally, it's actually not so helpful to have tons of old sites still floating around. We want to really like channel everything into a new focus. And I know originally over the last couple of days, you've been doing that for us and really kind of honing in on what our current focus is and what we want to, tighten up on for the new year. So we're taking our own medicine, Bridget. We're like doing this for ourselves as well. Service and topical entities, under specified service entities. Okay, services are described as expert design services, but not broken out into clear named ones. So distinct ones might be something like PowerPoint presentation design, webinar slide design, and all of that. So one of the ways that
And
we're doing this,
actually, let me take it even further. I know this is going to sound like an insane amount of work, but it's a matter of whether how much you want to dominate the space. Whenever there's one of these that is really important, like PowerPoint presentation design, for example, or webinar slide design, to really make it a true entity, it needs its own service page.
or at least a blog post.
Yeah, something. So that when it comes up, Google says, oh, look, oh, Bridget, Babylon Arts, boom, there it is. And it's going to take a little while for all of us to sort out how complex this is. But really, what we're trying to do, the end game here, and this is what I think is important. The problem is not the competition or that the competition is better. The problem is that Google and AI are unsure of what you actually do. And this I'm speaking generally to everybody, not to Bridget. Entity clarity removes uncertainty. And what Google wants is certainty. If there's certainty about what you do, because it's broken down clearly and explained clearly and separated as a single, like a service page or a blog post, I do visual communication. Then when somebody's looking for visual communication, it's clear that Babylon Arts is a great choice for that. But any kind of wish-washiness, any kind of vagueness, any kind of metaphoric explanations just are not going to fly in the entity world because of the need for clarity. Entity clarity is the thing that's going to get you the ranking or the AI response.
Yes. And the clarity is not only in identifying which entity, but then having the authority behind that entity. And so this element here, proof and EEAT entities. Originally, I know that you've been very, very harping on EEAT for our clients. You just want to give us a 30-second definition of what EEAT is?
Yeah, so you want all of this. EEAT stands for expertise, experience, authoritativeness, and trust. So in your online presence, you need all of that. If you have expertise, you need to say it. And what is the expertise with great clarity? I have these classifications, this many years, da 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 da, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then expertise. What are you an expert in? And it needs to be clearly defined. All these different services, and to the extent that you can, one page per service with an independent URL, right? So babylonarts.com/visual communication, one page. Babylonarts.com / PowerPoint slide presentations, one page, right? Very much, very, very, very clear to AI engines, especially, and search engines. Then you get to authoritativeness. Well, that's the power of the content itself. So the content on your online presence, which I know in your case is phenomenal, but so you don't have an issue here. But having that authoritativeness because the content is super important. And then trust, well, trust is built through your clients, your case studies, etc., your reviews, but also through using limbic messaging so that it feels right. So limbic messaging also helps to build trust. So having that EEAT, it basically what Google is saying is we want a more clear picture of exactly what you do, what you're an expert in, what you can do for a someone that we're going to recommend you to without any wishy-washiness. We really want to know what you do. And the better you are at explaining that, the more we're going to rank you. So it's not about being uh, shamelessly self-promotional, but it is absolutely about showcasing who you are, what you know, why you know it, where you come from, what's your experience, all of those things, so that the search engines and the AI engines say, well, we can definitely recommend Babylon Arts because look at this. They make what they do and who they are very, very clear. Therefore, we're going to give them the nod over somebody that doesn't make it that clear. Being clever is not such a great idea in today's world of AI.
Correct. And the AI engines and Google, they're looking for the specificity of the proof. Okay, like if you look at this page here, they're looking for explicit industries that you're talking about, right? In and it's saying add a who we serve section, and again, naming entities such as tech startups, healthcare organizations, universities, coaches and consultants. So one thing that you could do, Bridget, is, go through your portfolio again, name the industries that you've been serving, and put that here, right? And the reason why that's important is around the entities is Google is literally counting up the number of entities around you and your expertise. And if you say award-winning approach, that's fine. But if there are specific awards or mentions that are named, then that counts again towards your entity count. Okay. But let me give you an example of, and we had to convince our client of this. So Dr. Todd Snyder, he's an award-winning, like highly credentialed um, dentist. And right up front and center, we actually put his credentials here with links going back to these other entities. And talk about specificity. He's the 77th accredited fellow of the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry. He's the only
Wow.
one in Nevada. Like AI is impressed not so much that of the specifics of this, but the fact that when mentioning a bunch of entities that support the EEAT constructs around this particular entity, right? And so the specificity of what you can show is important. So again, missing authority type of things, putting in the schema, and we're not going to cover that on here, but then also locality and operational scope. So yes, you serve everybody, but you may want to mention, some of the location of your biggest clients, right? And also it's saying
Mm.
for you, add a location, for example, California-based design studio serving clients worldwide, right? And so that Google can anchor the organization in space because it's saying, hey, here's a great designer, but we're not quite sure what her entity is around her location. Okay. And so, that's super important. So we just wanted to
So I'd
kind
say
of,
something like 60 miles south of Hollywood.
there you
Sure.
go. Right. Right. And
Yeah.
and that whole thing, for example, of one of the things that I know you draw a parallel to is, making your presentations like Hollywood movies,
Right.
right? That would be even more powerful if you point out, that you're in the Hollywood area, right? And
Right.
so Google is literally counting up the entities at the end of the day. So now, yeah, Rich.
So let's talk for a second because this is key. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are sitting back right now and they're saying, oh my gosh, how do I figure this out? Well, I'd like to point out that Hubert just showed you how to figure it out. He just did it way too fast. So could you go a little slower and show people what you did to analyze Bridget's website that they can do for their website? So if it's Dr. Art, he can do the same thing for his website. If it's any of the other folks that are on here, I see a lot of our friends, Bill Straubinger, Bruce, you
Yeah.
can do this yourself. Kurt can do it. David, you can do this. Anybody, Gina, Linda, all of us. What did you do to figure out what are the entities that are well represented and what are
Yes.
the ones that are not well represented that need to make their way into um, your online presence so that you get picked before anybody else. And by the way, I hope everybody understands this is so bleeding edge. Most people don't even know what we're talking about here. They don't get it. This literally is coming about as a result of the year-end core update to the Google algorithms that we're beginning to understand this. So
Yes.
go ahead, Yoni.
So my answer is Ridgely's go-to de facto answer that he's been using, since we've been doing this mastermind is let's ask AI.
Right.
So we go to AI, and I don't care these days, whatever your favorite engine is, okay? Perplexity, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever. Everybody has a favorite, right? There's almost no such thing as a bad AI platform these days, okay? That they all work wonderfully. Now, the key is to know what to ask about, okay? Google entities. You may not have known that was a concept until today's meeting, but now that you do, you simply ask, what are Google entities for? And then you put in your niche, right? What are Google entities for the topic of PowerPoint presentation optimization? I didn't even like name Bridget's niche correctly. I just started somewhere. And I always like to start off with a general thing and then look at what comes out. Then I say, okay, but give me that information for a specific thing. And that's why I said, give me what are the Google entities on this page at this. And this is one of Bridget's websites. And so I didn't even have the website right until Bridget corrected me. So then I go back and I ask, okay, but do it. Well, actually, before I did that, I said, what are some entities that Bridget Callahan should present on her website to rank better? So generally speaking, you ask about a concept, then you ask it to look at your um, presence, and then you ask it for a gap analysis. Okay, so let me just say here, summarize for me the entities appropriate for Bridget. Oops, to uh, have as topics, have as topics. Okay, present me a gap analysis. Um, format for me to keep as a reference as we build out our online presence. Okay, and you just ask. So it's going to go and it's going to identify all the relevant entities and then tell you how you're doing in your core entities or not, and then do the gaps, right? So the gap is a key word that everybody richly in 2026 should be putting into their AI prompts because it makes the output like relevant to you. Okay, and we'll send you this, Bridget, so don't worry. Okay,
Okay,
so
great.
current strengths, but gaps, actionable topics. Okay, presentation design and optimization is another entity, but here are some gaps. Okay. Tools, formats, and platforms, current strength, implied focus on slides and digital design, but tools and platforms are mostly implicit. And I know, Bridget, that's because like you're such a master that the concept is more important and not so much the tool. That,
Correct.
if PowerPoint versus Google Slides. But your
But I could
customer,
have articles that talk about each of those separately, you know.
excellent. Right, excellent. But it's listing as a gap underutilization of specific software and platform entities that people actually search for, right? And so
Mm.
there's no topical content hubs around these tools. Okay. So originally we're gonna come back to the idea about content hubs because that's one of the big things that we're pursuing. But let me just continue this. For everybody, they can go through the tools, ask for the relevant entities to their niche, point them to one of your websites or all of your websites and say, where are gaps in my presentation of entities?
Okay,
Okay. And this,
before we go any further, Bridget, tell us what has made sense here, what we have done to confuse everybody in our mastermind, and where do we stand right at this moment? Because I don't want to go further and leave people behind. This is very complicated, brand new stuff. So what have you heard us say? What makes sense to you? What is confusing?
Well, what I'm hearing is a very clear prompt for the details of what we need to have on our website so that search engines find us for our particular niche. And mentioning what our strengths are and the gaps. So the gaps are what we want to fill in if we choose, if we want to be better in that area to be found. And like I know I don't mention PowerPoint, uh, Microsoft much, and I should probably mention it all the time because that's what most people use. So if they're searching for that, I'll be higher in the thing instead of not mentioning the software I use. Um, and then even mentioning the other software like Gamma or Google Slides or something like that. And I have pros and cons for those. And then there's
But
also Keynote for
you could
Mac.
even write an article about the pros and cons. It doesn't
Yep,
have to necessarily be a positive mention of
right.
an entity. It
Just
could
a
be
mention.
why not having the entity, right? And
Right.
that particular entity. So both of those work. It's all about getting clarity in the search engine and the LLMs and Google. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
there's a gap here that maybe a lot of people don't get. All LLMs use data that has largely been mined by Google, right? So it's really important to understand that even if you're dealing with Perplexity or Grok or DeepSeek or whoever you're dealing with, they're still pulling data a lot from Google. So making sure that we understand what Google wants influences not just Google, but all AI engines. Hubert, you want to add anything to that? Because I think that's a concept that sometimes gets missed.
Yes. I think standing. Okay, so we, I'm going to back into that, Ridgely, and I'm going to say this. Andrew, who a lot of the folks on this call have seen present before, ended the presentation last night with the urging that you have to do some study of entities in your space, and you have to start getting those entities represented on your website. Because if you don't, his phrasing was a competitor who knows some of this stuff or learns some of this stuff now because it's just starting to kind of become out there as knowledge, they will eat your lunch because you're not doing it. And originally, we have so many experts in our mastermind that should rightly be at the top of the search engines that if they're not doing it, I'm going to be crying because if you're nobody and you can do this, it's a big world of a difference than if you're an expert like Bridget, a real master at this, and you do it. I mean, like game over. If you just like start applying this, it's just literally game over.
That's right. So,
Now,
so again, Bridget, you're
one way.
tracking with us. You're tracking with us, right? So far, we're not.
Yeah, a question that comes up is there a way to measure where I rank with competitors, in the search area?
So the answer is, unfortunately, only only right now, and this may change in the future because there's a bunch of people who are trying to make those kinds of tools because obviously they can make a lot of money by doing it.
Mm.
Unfortunately, right now, the only way to see where you rank in AI engines is by typing stuff in and seeing what happens. In other words, there's no Google Analytics, Search Console, metrics kind of thing at this point that is reliable, that can tell us based on the strength of your entities and man, are we going to get into vectors, bro, or are we going to not do that? Because that was just like
Just a teaser, just a teaser.
tiny. So we're getting because there's a second element to this called vectors. Um, right now, the only way to do it is to type things in and see how it shows up. There's no other way to measure your strength in an AI engine at this point. Bruce is saying
So
we've
for
made this
example, like what
available.
would you search? If you're me, what would you type
You
in to
would search
see?
things like uh, PowerPoint slide presentations near me or PowerPoint slide presentations, experts in PowerPoint slide presentations, PowerPoint slide presentation creation, anything like that. Looking for someone to create great PowerPoints near Hollywood whatever. Things like that that somebody would logically search for where you live or where you want to do business is unfortunately the only way that is reliable today. Now, are
Mm.
people working on this big time? 100%, because whoever figures this out. But right now, the tools that are out there, according to my experts, are baloney. They don't work.
Mm.
So we have to be a little bit careful with that. Um, I know we're gonna take this to to further levels as we uncover it, but we're geeking out on this in a huge way. So teaser on vectors. Go ahead, Hubie.
Yeah, so here's the thing. So the importance about the entities is basically one, a relevant quantity. Okay. So meaning if you run a certain search and you get 10 10 results on the first page, Bridget, okay, and hopefully you're on the first page, each of those results has a certain count of entities to it. Bridget's page has, 50 entities, Hubert's page has 40 entities, Ridgely's page has 70 entities. Okay. What Andrew has taught us to do is, and he's using AI for this, he says this, go and look at the query such and such, look at the top 10 results, and give me a superset of all the relevant entities for those people on page one. You identify a superset. Now, let's say all of the people on page one, let's say it comes to, 400 entities. Phase two, after doing that research, is your content plan for 2026 is to start blog posting and creating what's called topical authority and supporting articles. And you start mentioning, building out your entity count. Your entity count, you don't want just like, oh, I'm going to beat Ridgely. He's number one and he has 70 entities. So I'm going to have 71 entities. No, because you know Hubert's entities and Bridget's entities and everybody else's entities, and you have a content plan. By the end of the year, you're going to have like way more than everybody else. And when Google comes and counts, they're going to say, oh my God, Bridget has the most number of entities. Okay. Now, to Ridgely's question about vectors, here's my teaser. Beyond just the count of entities, there's an idea for each entity. How close to the mark does do Bridget's entities come to satisfying the user experience of the query? That measure of how strong the entity is for Bridget or Ridgely or Hubert, that's expressed through a vector, right? And so if I'm looking for presentation design coaching for me, and I live in Hollywood, well, Ridgely's vector for that relevant entity has him in Florida. Mine has me in New York, and Bridget has you 60 miles from 60 minutes from Hollywood, right? Or whatever it is. So that vector will make your entity, even though all three of us may have the proper entities around that, because of the vector part of it, the proximity factor in this particular one, it makes Bridget's entities more powerful than ours originally. And so the quality of each grouping of entities that comes in as part of the measure of the vectors. So that's my little teaser.
And is there a way to I've seen it before. I'm just wondering if it's still there, a way to incite Google to tell us what are the searches people are looking for.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, as a
for
matter of
sure.
fact, and relevant to this, and actually more relevant to this, but closely related to that, Bridget, is the idea of to uncover the entities and to help you plot your content plan, is to look at the section of the results that say people also ask. If you phrase your question as in like, how do I make my PowerPoint presentation convert better? You're going to get like a section of the results that say people also ask. If you click the
Let
people
me do
also
that in real
ask,
time. Watch this. Let's just do
yeah,
that in real time. So
how do
I'm
I
gonna
make
go
my
over.
PowerPoint presentation convert better or something like that?
I'm gonna write this. How do I make my PowerPoint presentation more powerful? Okay,
Okay.
and it's going to give me a
So,
bunch of stuff.
yeah,
Uh,
now scroll down and look
I
for
scroll
people also
down
ask.
and I go to people
Right.
also
Okay.
ask. Now
Yes.
watch this. I
Now,
want to show everybody a trick. Here's a
yes.
trick. Watch
You're
this.
so good, Ridgely.
Here's a trick. If I click on it once and then I click a one again and I click it again, it's going to give me more. So I can keep clicking down and adding some more down there, and I can start digging as to what are the things that most
Mm,
people ask. And if I click, it'll give me some more. See that?
Yes.
So I can
mm.
drill and drill and drill. What's the golden rule of PowerPoint? How can I start a PowerPoint strong? How can I make it more interesting, etc.? So you can get what people are talking about literally by going to the people also ask section. And if you, the first they're going to give you like four answers or five, but to get more, just click.
Yeah. And you can
Boom,
even just
gives you a bunch more.
Ridgely, you can even just click it and click it again. And then just
Yeah,
keep clicking and clicking it again. Opening and closing it actually puts more on the list,
there you go. So you can
right?
see
Now,
what people are searching for, Bridget. It's a hack.
Okay.
yes. Now, the power of these questions that come up is that roughly they represent entities, right? So one was how long should I make my PowerPoint? So there's an entity of presentation length, right? And so when you talk about your blogs, one of them should be how long should my presentation be?
Mm,
And therefore you've covered now presentation length as an entity,
nice.
Let me
right?
give you an
So
example too, like about.
we're being intentional with our topics.
Serving up the answers for them. Yeah.
And in terms of the vector piece, this is actually kind of important because, like, think of it this way. Let's suppose that you are looking for a four-wheel drive car and that there are entities that are one's in Florida, talking about drive car, and one is in California, where Bridget is, and one is in New York, where they actually have snow and nasty weather. Do you see how the vector of Hubert having that entity dialed in, a four-wheel drive car, because there's nasty weather in New York, but there isn't in Southern California or Florida, he's going to have a stronger vector in that area because it's more relevant to the user. In other words,
Yes,
Google and the AI engines are saying, where is this more, who's got all the entities? And not only that, who has the entities that are most relevant to this particular user based on the query and the intent behind the query? Okay, did
yes.
I just lose a bunch of people now?
I'm glad you clarified. I'm glad you clarified that last section because that's what makes it all come around. Because we all know Google's number one commitment is to have a positive user experience for each of its users. So it's way over the top in terms of personalization. So it knows where the person asking about four-wheel drive is located. And if it's somebody in Vermont, they're going to serve Hubert's answer ahead of Ridgely and Bridget's because of the vectors and the entities.
I'm imagining all of our mastermind members having their brains going wah, 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 wah. So again, with all of this said, what are we really talking about here? We're talking about giving you an edge in your marketplace. And the simple way of doing this is to use AI to do the research. What entities should be most important to me in my business? Take a look at my website. What entities are there? What is the gap analysis? What should be there? And then begin the process of adding those in. And once you've done that once, go back to AI again. Take another look, do another analysis. The thing about AI is it's an iterative process, right? It's something that you can constantly work with. You can make it better and better over time, and it doesn't get tired. You can go back again and again and again to ask these queries. So you can use, I mean, we don't say this enough, I think, on the mastermind. I don't think that most people understand how much we use this crazy tool called AI. It's
Mm,
like for everything. Oh, we got to figure this out. Oh, let's use AI. Oh, I got to write a job description. Let's use AI. Oh, I need to put the job description on Indeed. Now, oh, how do I write a job description for Indeed? No, I take the job description. I say, Hey, AI, write this in the exact format that is going to give me the best possible result for Indeed. Click. 10 seconds. Done. Like, why would I try to figure this out? Right? So there's so many things that you can be doing all the time with your daily workload, what you're trying to accomplish by using AI. Right now, this entities and vectors conversation is complicated. It's difficult. It's whatever. But it gives you a huge edge if you're the first person to do it in your marketplace. So all you got to do is use the tool, figure out what you need to put in, and then use AI to help you do that. And then analyze it again. How are we doing? Where are we ranking? What does it look like? And you'll get a huge edge in the market. QB?
Yes, exactly. And so let's go to the chat and just answer some of these questions. So Bruce, yes, we will make the recording of this call available. We'll send an email out with this recording. Dr. Art is asking this, Bridget, originally. Bridget generally uses many more slides in her presentations than most. Will Google see that as stronger or weaker because it's different? So I have an opinion on that. Um, I want Ridgely to answer and maybe even show this example. Ridgely touted this example out. It's been a while, Ridgely, but you brought it out to the group. You mentioned it today, and it was about overwhelming people with proof and like going over the top as taught to us by Alaric. Do you want to kind of like present that as a solution and then back that into the answer of can you ever have too much authority? Because I've seen Bridget's slides and her proof elements, and it's kind of similar. When you have that amount of proof, it's a shame not to use it. Do you want to show us that example originally?
Yeah, for sure. So, our good buddy Alaric Heck, and it taught us a lot of stuff. But I want to show you what his testimonial page looks like. And I'm just going to start. And imagine that you see these testimonials, and he's on the Inc. 5000, and then they start. And it's video after video after video after video of success story after success story after success story after success story after success story. I'm now a third of the way down the page.
Hmm.
Look at this. It is mind-boggling how many success stories he has on here backing up who he is and what he does. And then you go into, okay, let's get some written ones as well as the video ones. And then let's keep on going and add a few more video ones. And then let's keep on going. Obviously, the human experience of watching, of scrolling says to you, OMG, if he can be this successful with this many people, obviously he can do the same thing for me. So, case studies in the case of dentistry, before and afters, uh, portfolio work, all of that, you just can't have enough of it. I mean, there's just no such thing as overkill on that side. Is there overkill on thin pages, on irrelevant content, on duplicative content, on saying the same thing 27 ways? Yes. But in terms of real proof, no.
Cool. Very, very
So you're
cool.
saying content differently over and over again in different ways is not good?
If it's expressed as a different entity, it's great. If it's repetitive content, no. Like, for
Okay.
example, if you say, if there's a particular principle that you believe in, Bridget, that works really well in PowerPoints, it also works in Google Slides, it also works in videos or whatever, you can express that in different ways, and that is going to be valuable.
Hmm.
But to repeat something over and over without context that's different or unique is going to it's going to generate it's going to get you penalized
Okay.
because it's
That's
not
that
relevant. It's not relevant to the user.
like the concept of keyword stuffing.
Yeah.
So we're getting near the end. So let me just share my screen and drop a follow up here. So I went back to AI and I said, explain vectors simply. How is a vector related to entities? Right. So a vector is just a list of numbers, right? It's a calculation. Okay. So think of a vector as a coordinate in space, blah, 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 whatever. Okay. So how vectors relate to entities. Okay. So again, we said that an entity is a specific thing, but the vector is a calculation of how different entities are related. Okay. And so that's again in 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 concept. So I said now for a specific query, does the search engine or AI platform calculate vectors and entities to decide who to recommend? Yes. And this is the big breakthrough in the whole like shebang right here, okay? Modern search engines and algorithms use both entities and vectors together to decide what and who to recommend. Okay? So here's what actually happens. So a person runs a query, who can help me with my slide design, blah blah, whatever. The AI engine or Google turns that query into a vector, a numeric representation. Okay. Now, in parallel, it does entity recognition. Now, the vectors that score the most similar is what gets promoted. So
Right.
what's
Which is, by
happening
the
is
way, which is really, here's really key point. Note right there, it says, even if they don't share exact keywords, again,
yes,
we're going to what is the intent? What does the user really want and really need? Google is trying to say, we're going to give you the best we've got. And the way that we're going to determine that is by using this crazy ass numerical formula in a multi-dimensional space called a vector and then look at, wow, this is what has the closest meaning and intent to what the user is searching for, not the exact keyword.
exactly. And here's a specific example for you, Bridget. Look, so conceptually, slides that sell and conversion-focused presentation design are semantically similar, even though they're two different things. So the objective is you don't necessarily need to focus on the keywords because you're not going to predict every single keyword. And Google is not looking for every single keyword. It's looking for the concept of how to make your slides help your marketing better, right? And that's represented through entities and vectors. How do you like them apples?
So when I say it differently, that's repetitive, is what you're saying.
If you say the same thing differently, if you say
Right.
something that is related to a different entity, like a PowerPoint situation is going to be different than a video, that's going to be different than a stage presentation, but you say in all of those, it's very important to start with a bang or something like that, that's fine. The challenge is going to be just saying the same fluffy stuff to have more content out there, hoping that you're going to game the system, which you're not. Google is getting smarter and smarter. AI engines are getting smarter and smarter. And that's why we have to get smarter and smarter in how we present this stuff.
So, like one of the terms I'm using with my trainings now is emotional connection, emotional messaging, right? Limbic messaging, emotional visual messaging. So I can have a blog post that talks about that in slides, but then I can talk about it a little bit differently for landing pages. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Correct.
Okay.
100%. And that's really relevant because it's valuable to somebody who's searching for, is it in slides? Is it in my visual presentation? Is it in a PowerPoint? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If we, the thing that I want to remind everybody of here, we're deep in the weeds of how to do the one thing that Google is saying is more important than anything else. It's content is still king. Content is king, except that now it needs to be presented so clearly that we can use a numerical representation of your content to determine whether you're the best person or service to recommend based on the query that our user is putting into our system. So it's
And so,
always about being the best, providing the best answer for the user. Google's being true to that concept and has been since the beginning. They're just getting more technically challenging about how to do that.
okay. I had
Bridget,
a question and I lost it.
you're killing it, girl. You're killing it. It's all good. All right. So before we wrap this, and again, team, we will be touching on this a lot more. We are getting uh, early stage, but we are getting some pretty crazy results by doing this for our dentists. Now, obviously, we focus on this particular niche because that's where our business is and because it's been successful and is growing. But we know that what we're doing applies across the board. So we're going to be bringing you more ideas, more thoughts, more whatever. We'll be talking about this entities and vectors. Tune in next time around because we'll be that much further along. We're doing some experimentation that is working, and we're now expanding the base of experimentation. So, for example, this last question that just came in. How does the location entity help or hurt service businesses with clients in multiple states? Well, in that case, you can create entities that
Each city.
define each of those locations. It's a lot more work, but do you want to dominate or do you not want to dominate? To give you, for instance, Bill, we just built a series of location pages for multiple small towns in the surrounding geographic area up to about 60 miles away from one of our dental clients' main office. And we built location pages basically using entity analysis for each of the locations because we knew each location is an entity. So were the pages largely replicated? Yes, but they weren't identical. We could use AI to do that. But now we're showing up as entity, 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 all around the main hub. So yes, you can absolutely do that. It's a ton of work, but it's totally worth it.
Yeah, and,
Hmm.
and here's actually how to do it. In the blog post, you simply create a post about a case study of a job that was done in state XYZ. Then you create a separate blog post about a different case study in a different state. And so you're covering these entities, these geographic entities by various blog posts. And yes, people will be interested because if they're in a specific state, it brings that vector match in Google's eyes, but they're interested in the case studies regardless of where it happens, right? But if you don't drop the location of these jobs that happen, Google has no idea, and is trying to guess.
So if I have a client that's in Kansas City and I mentioned I worked with so and so in Kansas City and I helped her with these slides and blah blah blah, and then someone searches in a city near Kansas City for a PowerPoint because I mentioned Kansas City, that will pop up higher for them.
Yes,
Then
because
somebody that doesn't have that. Yes.
it's measuring, it's turning their query into a vector. And in doing so, Google knows where that person is and where they're asking. And
Right.
that's part of the vector analysis of that entity. Then it's going and matching you. And because one of your content proof elements mentioned that city, it's at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to predict what happens in the real world. But if you don't drop that in there, there's no chance of you matching up. So there's no such thing as too much specificity, is what I'm saying.
All right.
Okay.
All right, cool.
So now that we've had the first mastermind of the year be the most confusing we've done in a really, really long time, we promise there will be follow-up to this because clearly it is very, very important. And again, it puts us in that space of taking a lead in the marketplace before anybody else figures this out. So, all that said, I know that Hubert has a special parting gift for Bridget. I just know it.
Yeah, and not only for Bridget, but also for Ridgely. But I do have to read Bruce's um, contribution to the dad joke department. Okay. He says, "Why is AI like a ghost in Google's entity world?" Answer, because it's everywhere, non-physical, referenced constantly, and still misunderstood. Beautiful.
Beautifully.
All right.
Nice
Now,
job, man.
yeah, so Bridget, first I'll stump you. Then I'm gonna stump Ridgely. Bridget, why doesn't anyone listen to each other on New Year's Eve? Why doesn't anyone listen to each other on New Year's Eve?
I have no idea.
Because their words go in one year and out the other. Okay, okay, Mr.
I got to
Hotshot,
clean
why
my
should you?
years.
There you go. Richly, why should you stand on just your left foot during the New Year's Eve countdown? Why should you stand only on your left foot during New Year's Eve countdown?
Correct. Stumped. No clue.
So that you can start the new year on the right foot.
I should have figured that one out. I should have got that one.
There you go. Started
All
on
right,
the
that
right.
was pretty good. All right, team. So again, we will come back to this, right? We understand that this is complex, challenging stuff, and we will come back to it for sure. Our next mastermind is only a few days away. It is actually on Tuesday afternoon, 13th, Tuesday the 13th, at 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific. 2 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Eastern, next Tuesday, the 13th. So definitely put some thought into this, play around with entities with respect to your own online presence and see what you come up with. And bring your questions back to us so that we can all learn together. This is definitely complex stuff, but this is the stuff that puts you ahead of everybody in your space. All right. So
Mm.
everybody in your space, all those people can look out if you can figure this stuff out. So thanks so much for joining us. And yeah, we're going to deal with these difficult, challenging things so that we get the edge in the market and can help everybody move forward.
Exactly. We'll see you then. We'll see everybody back then. The only one excuse is Gianna, who says, "I'll be on the beach in Florida."
All right, Jenna, you enjoy the beach in Florida. We'll be talking about entities and vectors and stuff. I hope you have a little fruity drink with a, umbrella in it or something.
Umbrella.
All right. Happy
All right.
Thanks,
2026,
guys.
everybody. Let's make it a great
Thank you,
year.
Bridget.
Thank you, Bridget. Ciao for
All
now.
right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.